Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to have a look at this here picture, what you can see in front of you, which is kind of interesting to me. So this appeared on Bolter and Chainsword under the thread title of just simply New Primaris Model ? And you can see why they might think that there is potentially a new Primaris model in there. Off to the left, as you can see where the arrow is helpfully pointing, there is an unusual looking Space Marine right there. But this whole picture is it's interesting. It's a little bit strange. I don't know where they've got this from. They haven't given a source or anything. People in the thread are asking where this came from, and so far there's not been any response as to the source of this thing. But it could potentially be a new Primaris model, or it could also potentially be a test Primaris model. Something that was not approved, something that did not make it essentially to the production stage. Because if we look at everything in this picture, and there was someone in the thread who had exactly the same thought as me. I just spent like 5 minutes looking at it, and I was like, well, I recognise that dude and that dude and that guy, and someone else had a very similar thought. So if you look at the image as a whole, you've got a few models in there that are properly old. You know, most of this stuff is stuff that's already released in one form or another. And it's important to say in one form or another because there's, at least in one case here, you can see 3 different versions of the same model. So you can see that there is the green stuff Auric Shaman, there is what looks like a resin Auric Shaman, or it could be a 3D printed one. It's difficult to tell, the quality of the picture isn't that great. And you can see the final plastic version. The Deathwatch Captain looks to be actually in plastic. That's not the Captain, is it? That's one of the other ranks that I can't remember the name of. The Commissar is in resin by the look of it. You've got an elf there with, again, resin. The Summoner in the back, that has been around for absolutely ages. And, you know, for a proper indication as to the sheer age of some of the stuff in this photo, you can clearly see the Orc Warboss there behind the Deathwatch dude. And it's difficult to fully tell just because of it being completely hidden almost by the Deathwatch guy, but that looks very much like one of the old Orc Warboss. So there's like a mix here of what looks like initial sculpts using green stuff, like resin stuff, like the Commissar obviously is in resin, and then you've got actual finished production models. There is the Deathwatch guy, there is the Shaman in plastic, but then you have these, in fairness, actually 2 interesting looking things that are most definitely Primaris in nature. You've got what looks to be like a test version of the Chaplain I can't tell what material that's in, to be honest. It could just be in different types of like modelling putty or something. It's kind of difficult to tell, but the pose is quite similar. The overall look, it's like it's almost there, but not quite what we actually got. Very excessive. The skull on the chest, I think I prefer the ribbed look of what I'm assuming is the final version. But then you've also got this Marine on the side, and I'm edging towards this being like a test, maybe like an initial concept, or like a building up to what we finally ended up with as Primaris as opposed to a new model. Just because there are changes to this thing that don't really match a lot of the stuff that the Primaris have got. But it's still interesting to see at the very least. And I mean, there is obviously always potential for something to actually be, as it turns out, something new. But you can see there's what looks like the Iron Halo again from the Chaplain that we've actually got. The pose is interesting because it suggests some sort of jump pack, but we can't see anything in the way of like the landing skids or anything on the feet of the model, which is, you know, the thing we ended up with for Inceptors and Suppressors as well. We don't have that kind of bulking out of the feet. It also looks like the thing that they're holding, the weapon, is kind of like the Crozius from the Chaplain as well. It's a little bit difficult to make out details because it is such a blurry photo, because you have to zoom in a fair bit to actually see what it is. But you can see that there are design similarities. There are things in there that kind of match Primaris as a whole, but they are just that little bit different. I have to admit, a little part of me just briefly wondered whether it was some sort of like Grey Knight thing for Primaris. Genuinely, because there's the chest itself, there's like a bit more ornamentation there, but it's not. That to me doesn't strike me as being particularly like librarian-esque or chaplain-esque. It looks just like a bit of ornament. It looks just a bit fancier than the Primaris generally are. The leg itself is difficult to tell, but there again seems to be more decoration. It's more angular instead of being the kind of rounded, smooth plate that goes on the knee. It seems to be arched in some way. There's just, for some reason, I look at it and it makes me think a little bit of the Grey Knight. Is it the Interceptors? The ones that got like the antennas on the backpack. There's just something about it that seems something like that. Now, of course, that's just conjecture. There's no way of actually knowing what this is unless it suddenly shows up as a new model, and we don't know what the source of the image is. I would suggest that wherever they got this from, it's some sort of official look at the design studio, or it's a picture taken in the design studio, because you have so many other models that are released. They are clearly the green stuff sculpts of those finished models. But this is something that we haven't actually seen released, and there is that other chaplain-looking figure that is very close to what we got, but the one that we got seemed to be toned down quite a bit, which actually I think I like a little bit more the one that we ended up with, even if the Crozius does need to be a bit more hardcore than it is. But yeah, this particular model, I'd love us to get a proper, full-on look at this thing, because there are some differences there that genuinely feel a little bit significant. You know, there's things like on the shoulder pads, you've got that kind of strange extra protruding layer of armour at the top. You've got the purity seal coming out the side. There's obviously something moulded into the right-hand shoulder pad. The Crozius, although it has the skull, also has that kind of almost Nighthaunt-esque streamy, fiery stuff coming out as well. It's an interesting model. I would love to know what you guys think this could be. Like whether you think it is like a test or an initial sculpt or something that maybe got to further stages of approval before things went in a different direction, that kind of thing. Because it is both Primaris and also not Primaris. There is something about it that is a lot more reminiscent of the kind of, for me, like the Sternguard Vanguard type thing. There's almost like almost like a Grey Knight's feel to it a little bit. I'm not saying that's what it is, just that's what it feels like to me. Before anyone goes to just mean Primaris Grey Knights, it's not what I said, even slightly. So don't go down that road. But yeah, it's an interesting model. It'd be really good to get some more information on this. And I guess until then, just put your best guesses in the comments down below. You know, like whether you think it got to a specific stage and then didn't get approved, whether it was perhaps a trial for a certain type of Primaris, whether it be librarian or chaplain or whatever. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all of the links and so on and so forth. There's an affiliate link in the description where if you want to buy some 40k stuff or any of the tabletop stuff or some paint or God knows what else from Element Games, I get a little something for that, and you also save a bunch of money because they do big discounts on Games Workshop stuff. So that's an option if you would like to take it. You don't have to. It's not in the rules. And it would be a weird set of rules if it was. So, anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Toodaloo.